Now, by now, I'm sure you guys have all seen 1,000 photos of this place, but why is it there and why do the pools have that strange blue color? Today, we're gonna head out to just outside of Moab, Utah, and we're gonna go check this place out. Now, lucky for me, Moab is really only about 3.5 hours south of where I live here in Utah. That makes Moab a pretty easy, quick weekend trip for me, especially when Moab is much warmer and nicer and doesn't have the cold, snowy weather that we get up here in northern Utah. Because of the convenience and how easy it is for me to get to Moab, I've actually kind of got this down to a system now because I've done it so many times. Typically, I'll leave on a Friday night. That way you get Friday night, all of Saturday. You get Saturday night and Sunday morning, you drive back. So typically, I'll try and kill two birds with one stone, and I'll hit up one of my favorite areas of Utah near the Utah Badlands for the first night of camping Friday night before heading into Moab. Of course, that means the opportunity to get some really awesome drone footage and photos of these really bizarre Badlands right at sunrise before heading into Moab. And of course, while I'm down there, I hit up some of my favorite off-road areas there. Some of these trails in this area of the Utah Badlands, they just never get old. Now, these strange ponds are located just about 15 miles outside the town of Moab. Actually, one of the most popular places you can view these ponds from is from near Dead Horse State Park. Now, of course, Moab and the surrounding areas is well known for a lot of natural geological formations, but these are actually man-made industrial ponds. Now, there are several well-known dirt road trails that go out and around near this area, but it is important to note that these ponds themselves are actually on private property, so you can't exactly go to the ponds themselves, so to speak. The most common way people see these potash ponds is actually from the overlooks at Dead Horse State Park, which is the only way that I know of where you can actually see the ponds on foot. But what on earth are they? These are the Moab Potash Solar Evaporation Ponds. So now where you're probably thinking, what on earth is potash? Potash is actually one of the key ingredients used to make fertilizer. In fact, it's actually the primary potassium fertilizer used in broadacre crops. Some of the other things that it would also be used for primarily are fertilizer, which is its main use. It's also used for animal feed and for industrial chemicals and for some food processing. About 90% of potash production goes towards agriculture. Potash essentially just means potassium salts and potassium chloride. Potassium chloride is actually an essential ingredient for plants. Now, why on earth would they pick to do it here in Moab? That seems a little bit strange, especially given that it's right near so many national and state parks. Well, the reason is actually very simple. There is a huge potash deposit located underneath Moab. In fact, located directly underneath Moab is something called the Paradox Basin. Paradox Basin is a large sedimentary basin spanning southeastern Utah and southwestern Colorado. It formed during the late Paleozoic era. It's best known for its thick sequence of evaporites and for being a major hydrocarbon-producing province. About 300 million years ago, this area was covered by a shallow sea. That sea evaporated, came back, evaporated again, and that process repeated many, many times. Each time this happened, it left behind another thick layer of salt. Over time, those layers of salt, they stacked up into hundreds of thousands of feet of salt and potash underground. So Moab is quite literally sitting on top of buried mineral pancakes of salt and potash that have been there for millions of years. But why the massive pools? That's actually because specifically in Moab, the potash is not in solid rock form. Instead, it's mixed into the salt layers that dissolve very easily in water. Now that's important because it changes the mining operation. Instead of your traditional mining where you dig a pit and you pick the rocks out of the ground, instead they can simply pump water down into the ground, let it dissolve the minerals, and that creates this kind of salty brine that they simply just pump back up. Even with this massive deposit of potash, this mining operation wouldn't work without Moab's inherent weather. By default, Moab has very low humidity, intense sun, hot summers, frequent wind, and very low rainfall. This means that water can evaporate quickly. In a lot of other states, places like Oregon or the Midwest, states like Washington, you have too much humidity and the evaporation ponds just really wouldn't work well because it would be too slow, too wet, and too expensive for them to do it. Now, another key part of their mining operation is the location of the Colorado River, which sits right next to their location. This means they have a large water supply that they can use in order to conduct this mining operation. So why are the ponds themselves blue? Because potash itself is not necessarily blue. The reason for the blue is that the mining operation actually adds blue dye on purpose. This is because the darker colors absorb more heat. More heat equals faster evaporation. So with the blue dye, you actually get physics helping you out in evaporating the water more quickly. Now, one thing you will notice if you ever see these is that not all of them are the same shade of blue, and there are even periods where there are different colors mixed in there, like greens or pinks or other colors. Why does that happen? Well, when it's blue, these ponds usually contain newer, less concentrated brine that they just barely added the blue dye to on purpose. The darker color, of course, absorbs more heat faster and makes the evaporation process much faster. The turquoise/green phase is sort of a mid-stage concentration. This starts to happen as the water evaporates, salt levels rise, minerals shift, microorganisms start to appear, and the dye gets diluted or breaks down. This eventually creates the teal, aqua/greenish blue tones that you'll see sometimes, where it's sort of a halfway session between it being fully evaporated and not being totally fresh brine that was just pulled from the ground. Now, as this process continues, the colors will eventually shift more towards a yellow or a brown. This is when they're very heavy and rich with minerals and sediments. When the brine gets very concentrated, iron compounds, clay, organic material, and other salts, they start to dominate. That produces that yellow, tan, or rusty brown, or sometimes even an amber color that you're seeing in some of those late stage harvests they're doing for this potash. Now, of course, this is a large industrial mining operation, and that does mean that there aren't a lot of good ways to actually go there. You can't obviously go to the pools themselves, but there are a lot of awesome 4x4 trails and other areas where you can get close to it. So today, we're just gonna go out on a road not too far away from it, just a 4x4 dirt road, and we're just gonna get kind of close to where we can get kind of an aerial view and see what these things look like. And there you have it. These are the Moab Potash Solar Evaporation Ponds. Probably one of the weirdest and most iconic things located in the Moab area. Really easy to see even from satellite imagery just because of how huge it is. And that's going to wrap it up for our quick weekend trip to Moab to check out these potash ponds. Now, if you guys want to see more weird areas of Utah, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because we're going to have a lot more videos from some of these weird areas like the Badlands we stopped at during this trip as well. Will be coming to the channel too. Now, if you guys still have questions or you know something about potash ponds that I don't know, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.